morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dose of Pharma. My name is Talia Rauman, and alongside Jack Cullen today, we're going to be your hosts. So today's episode is really special. We're going to be speaking with three amazing pharmacy students from Monash University, University of North Carolina, and University College of London as well. So in terms of who our speakers are today, so we've got Serena Lowe, who's a third-year Bachelor of Pharmacy and Master of Pharmacy student at Monash University. Then we've got Rivani Jaral, a second-year Doctor of Pharmacy student at the University of North Carolina. And lastly, we've got Nicole Chung, who is a Master of Pharmacy student and is in her second year over at UCL. So I'll now hand over to Jack so that we can do some more introductions.
Thanks, Talia. So in today's episode, we're really going to explore the differences between pharmacy education across the three institutions that are represented here today, and across three different continents, which is quite exciting. But before we do get started, let's begin by asking our guests to just tell us a little bit about themselves. So perhaps, Serena, you can start us off. Give us a brief introduction to yourself and perhaps even what brought you into pharmacy.
Sure, thank you very much, Jack and Talia. So my name is Serena Lowe. I'm currently in my third year of my Bachelor of Pharmacy degree. So at Monash, it is a 5-year course, including the Master of Pharmacy, and it is probably a bit different to the other two constitutions where they're onto their masters or doctors already. What brought me into pharmacy was really I would say it's a very rapidly growing sector of the healthcare industry, and it is also a very special career in, say, we would know a lot about the medicines and the treatments as well, which is what I'm really interested in for my career.
Thanks, Serena. And you got a good point there. We definitely are the medicines experts, or at least that's the what's pitched to us when we start the degree. Maybe Rabani, you can tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe briefly what brought you into becoming a medicines expert in the US.
Yes, of course. I'm Rivani Jaral, and I'm a second-year pharmacy student at UNC. I did my bachelor's in biochemistry. So during my undergrad, I was also working at a community pharmacy over here. And that's where I really was like, yes, this is what I want to do once I am out of like undergrad. And it really showed me how pharmacists were there for patients, even when a lot of doctors' offices were closed during COVID. And I was like, pharmacists really play like a role in bridging care to patients and being a bridge between like the hospital and just patient care. So that's what got me to pharmacy.
Thanks, Giovanni. And finally, Nicole, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and what's brought you to become a pharmacist in England.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. So my name's Nicole and I'm a second year pharmacy student at UCL. And for similar reasons, so I became interested in pharmacy because of their rapidly expanding role as well. And especially because after COVID, the NHS realised that the pharmacy was the first point of contact for a lot of patients. And they did kind of absorb a lot of the roles that the general practices and the doctors, kind of the services they couldn't provide during COVID. The community pharmacy was able to take on more roles. And I think that really interested me just because it was becoming so much more clinical and we were able to have more like patient interactions. I think that's what got me into pharmacy as well. And just having work experience at a pharmacy was really helpful, and seeing such a positive workplace environment that the pharmacy has interested me as well.
Thanks, Nicole. I think having already heard from all three of you, I think it's awesome to hear that all three of you have almost come into pharmacy for similar reasons, particularly around the expanding scope of pharmacy practice and the sort of things that our profession could do during COVID when all the doctors' offices were closed and such. I think it's a great point to notice that, our free institutions are connected by Pharmalliance. And I think just being able to reflect back on the last, 2-3 minutes of talking, we're all in this profession for similar reasons. And I think because of that, even though we work in different continents, in different scopes of practice, we definitely have a future of working off one another. Let's go back to the basics and talk a bit about student life. Maybe Talia, you can kick us off with that.
Yeah, amazing, Jack. Thank you so much. And just want to echo what Jack said. I really love that you guys are talking about the expanding scope of pharmacists. I think that's just something that is so exciting. And it's really great to hear that that's happening across like 3 different continents. It's just super inspiring for the future. I also really like that you guys discussed about the importance of pharmacists being that key role in primary healthcare, the first essential healthcare professionals that patients do see. So pharmacists are incredibly important and valuable absolutely anywhere in the world. So as Jack said, we're going to move on to discussing a little bit about student life and essentially what a day in the life of a pharmacy student is like at your institutions. So we'll start with Ruvani this time. Could you talk to me a little bit about what a typical week looks like in your role as a pharmacy student?
Yes, of course. So a week might look differently depending on which year you're in over here. So if you're a first year, that's like 2 semesters of just classes. So you're going to your classes, sometimes they're 9 to 5 or maybe just half a day of classes. And we have a plethora of, I would say, student-led organizations. So we really encourage our students to be involved in any aspects they want to, or if there's something they're interested in, whether it be like veterinary pharmacy or psych pharmacy, they can join those organizations. So I'll just break up a day. So essentially, like maybe we'll get to school around 8 o'clock, have a class, and then around noon, that's where like we break off. We call it common hour, and either you can just like hang out with your friends, have lunch, or go to one of your organization meetings, which are, again, depending on whichever organization you join. And it's like an hour of whatever org you're part of. And that could be, the events could vary from lunch and learns or just like a normal general body meeting. And then afterwards, we'll just continue having classes. For our first years, the first semester, they actually have compounding lab, which is extremely interesting. So they get to make their own medications. And this year I was like a student TA, so I got to be on the other side of it. So it was really cool to see my students like experience it for the first time and then make like different like fun stuff like lollipops or like ointments. And that's how it goes for the first years. Second years, the first semester, again, we're in classes, so similar to our the first years. However, our next semester, we break off into like rotations, half a block, and then classes for half a block. So your rotations could range from anything from hospital, clinical, or just community pharmacy. And so it's 2 months you will be out in the field working, and then 2 months in classes. So it's really nice that you get to implement and practice everything you're learning in class. And third year, it's kind of similar to a second year. Again, half classes, half rotations. And then fourth year, it's completely rotation based. So you won't have any classes, and each day you're at a different rotation. Each month is going to be a different specialty that you choose. But yeah, that's like a bit like summary of a day in the life.
Thanks, Ruvani. That was a great summary. And it's really cool to hear that you get so much exposure into different pharmacy environments. Like even you were talking about veterinary pharmacy. That is really interesting that you guys can have organizations that can expose you to that. And being a student TA, that's also awesome. So I'm glad that you had fun with that too. I'll now move on to Nicole to share a little bit about what being a pharmacy student is like at UCL.
Yeah, so the structure of each week for us is pretty similar in year 2. So usually we have our lecture heavy days on Mondays and Fridays. And then throughout the week, we'll have like workshops, and they're kind of like these case scenario lessons where we work through and problem solve patient cases. And these are our like most collaborative sessions where we can work more closely like with our course mates and really like delve into the case and discuss amongst each other how we would problem solve it as if we were like a multidisciplinary team out in the workplace. And then we would have small group tutorials as well. And these sessions teach us how to answer exam questions. based on the Monday lectures or the Friday ones from the previous week. And then, of course, we have our labs, which we do have less of now that we're in year 2, just because we have more placements. And they're kind of just scattered throughout the term, and they kind of just reinforce the knowledge from lectures as well. I would say my favourite part of pharmacy at the moment is the placements, just because it's quite easy to get lost in the theory side of things. I think we can all agree, like, sitting in a library for hours is quite hard to forget, like, the reason why we're doing pharmacy. And I think placements are a good reminder of, like, oh, this is actually what I'm studying for, and to help us see the bigger picture. And yeah, so the structure of each week is pretty similar, but the content we learn is quite different. So sometimes we'd go from one medical condition to another medical condition in a week. But yeah, so that's kind of how it goes for us.
Thanks, Nicole. It's really great to hear that you guys also get quite early exposure into placement, so really getting used to that pharmacy work environment. I really like as well the learning kind of styles you described. It's really cool to hear that it's not just like the lectures, but you've also got like opportunities to collaborate with other students and problem solve, as well as like go through some potential like exam cases and exam questions as well, which is obviously really great to have an upper hand on as well. I'll now move on to Serena to walk us through a typical day in the life as well.
Thanks, Talia. So, from what I've heard from the other two speakers, actually for Monash, it's quite like a combination of both. So, we only have classes around 3 to 4 days a week. And it's pretty, in terms of the content, it's actually pretty regular. So, from all the way into, from second year all the way to, I would say fourth year, it's more like, so for each week, we'll have workshops and lectures all around the same topic. So that's what it's like for me. So in terms of a typical day, I would wake up in the morning, probably not so early as 8, and then I would get to campus for the morning class. And then depends on if it's lectures or workshops, I'll either finish the lectures in like around 2 hours to 4 hours, and that'll be it for the day for the classes. And then for workshops, I'll have a break in between, and then in an afternoon workshop as well. So there's usually events going on from student-led organizations as well throughout the week. So if I'm lucky, I'll be able to get some like free snacks, and then maybe some other events going on. And then that's usually in the middle of the day. And then after that, I will probably just go home. We have lectures that can be done online, so it's very convenient for those that live far from campus, like me. So some days I'll just stay home and do the lectures online, or I can just come there, since they're recorded, I can come back to them really whenever I want to throughout the week. And then most of the students here would have a part-time job in a community pharmacy, some in hospitals. So depending on when that is, so I'll go on my part-time from the weekends, and then that'll be like a week for me. And also there's placements. They're kind of random throughout the year. So I'll have, this year I had 2 weeks in hospital and 2 weeks in community, which I've completed already. So that'll be somewhere in the semester or somewhere out of the semester, but it'll be pretty, they'll let you know pretty early. So that'll be just Monday to Friday, at a community pharmacy or at a hospital.
Amazing. Thanks, Serena. And congrats on finishing your placement up for this year. That's exciting as well. Yeah, from what you've said as well, it's very interesting to see how collaborative environment is definitely a key factor in all of the, I guess, the institutions that we're discussing today. I also really like that you talked about student organizations and having, free food. Who doesn't love free food during the break? Which is also great. And also the importance of like having some sort of hybrid model as well. I do remember that for context, Jack and I also studied pharmacy at the Monash campus. And I do remember a student having to travel about 2 hours to get to campus. So definitely that hybrid education option was absolutely amazing. So now we're going to delve into a few other topics related to student life, and I'll pass back to Jack to lead us off with that.
Thanks, Talia. So I think everyone's mentioned their rotations or their clinical placements, and I'm really curious to see what are the kind of similarities and differences between our three institutions. So I think Serena, you can start us off because you briefly talked about it, but maybe you can kind of tell us how the placements run at Monash. And do you get opportunities in community and hospital, or do you also get to be doing opportunities and placements in rural areas or even in industry in Australia?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jack. So, for placement at Monash, it is you get exposure quite early on. So, as an undergrad, placements for Monash will start in second year. So only like after 1 year of your study, after you graduated high school, if that's where you're coming from, you can already get exposure to community pharmacy, and then hospital pharmacies will start at third year. So there's plenty of opportunities, I would say, for as you were saying, rural and regional placements as well. But those ones are usually the ones you have to apply for. So Monash is it's quite organized in terms they'll let you know very early on where you'll be going and what you need to do. And I think as a student, most of us got a community pharmacy job very early on. So they already gave us plenty of exposure into just in terms of getting us ready for when to do on placements. So a part of that, in terms of industry placements, I haven't had a lot of like in-person placement opportunities. I haven't heard a lot about that, but it is actually a sector of the industry that I'm very interested in. So it'll be very interesting to see if will be more opportunities maybe in fourth year or fifth year, but I'm not quite sure of what the structure is like for those years. But yeah, plenty of opportunities throughout the year, and then fourth year, which is my next year, I'll get almost just a whole semester just doing placements in hospital and community as well.
Thanks, Serena. Yeah, and I think from personal experience, having just completed the fourth year, I can tell you that the placements are quite prescribed. You still get your hospital placement, you do a month there, and then most people will do a month in community. I think the only flexibility that really comes with the fourth year is you do get that opportunity to do remote placement in fourth year instead of your 4 week community, which I was lucky enough to do and actually spent 6 weeks working in and around Alice Springs. Um, but yeah, you're right. It'll be interesting to see if they do start to think about introducing industry placements into Monash curriculum, because I think the closest thing we can get at the moment is research placements through one of our professional organisations, the ADFA. But I'm interested to hear now maybe how our colleagues work it in the UK. And Nicole, maybe you can tell us, how do your rotations or placements work at UCL?
Yeah, of course. So our placements, they're located all in different locations around London, just for convenience. We start them in year one, but the year one placements are more based on like shadowing, still getting to know the different roles within the community pharmacy and the hospital, getting a good idea of how things work before we actually get some hands-on experience. So, for example, in year one, we have 3 different placements: one in term one in term two, and one in term three. And we have to do the community pharmacy placement in year one, and it's with just a chain pharmacy, and it's with a company that are kind of closely linked to UCL and they provide like education through these placements, closely connected to UCL. And there we kind of learn more about dispensing and accuracy checking. And then we moved on to hospital placements in the second term. And we just got to learn about the roles of pharmacists in hospitals, just because it's a kind of different role that has been less traditional. So it was good to learn about pharmacists in different specialties in that sense. And in the third term, we had a placement in the third sector. So it was either in a charity or like a government-funded service. So I went to a substance abuse service where I got to see how the mental health workers try to treat addiction. And I really enjoyed that placement just because it's a patient group that is less spoken about and less understood because there's so much stigma still surrounding addiction. And I think it helped really to build my emotional intelligence in that sense. Something that, you can't really learn in the classroom. And just hearing from the service users, their past experiences, helped to develop listening skills. Just because I think that a lot of patients, they really appreciate a healthcare professional listening. And even if you don't understand, it's important that, we're able to make the patient feel understood. So I think that was something I really enjoyed last year. So I think, it's quite a varied experience for a lot of people because for the third sector placement, you can choose which area you go into. So you can choose to volunteer with the elderly or children with disabilities and quite a wide range of patient groups. So I think there's a lot of choice there, which makes it really enjoyable because you can choose kind of according to your interests.
It's really interesting. Thank you, Nicole. It's good to see that they're actually actively getting pharmacy students to almost give back to the community for these government organisations and charities, as you mentioned. That's something completely unfamiliar to myself in Australia. And Talia and Serena might agree, at least in my experience, there's not a lot of pharmacy students being asked by our institutions or given the opportunities to give back through that way. So it's really fantastic to see they're doing that sort of initiative in UCL. And it's really interesting you bring up the substance abuse service that you worked with, because when I spent time in the United States, which brings me to you, Rubani, I had a lot of conversations around substance use disorders, particularly in post-opioid crisis. I think North Carolina it's got the Appalachian Mountains in the rural center there, which is what I was told is almost the epicenter of the crisis, if you will. Maybe you can correct me, Rubani. But I think what you said earlier, Rubani, you really brought a lot of attention to the structure of the placements throughout doing a pharmacy doctorate in the United States, particularly you said you essentially don't do any in the first year, but the amount of placements you do to your classes kind of increases throughout your second, third, and fourth years. And you said you get a lot of exposures through student organizations as well into different specialties. So maybe you can talk a bit about what kind of specialties you yourself have looked into. Have you done any work with substance abuse disorders, or do you plan to? And do you get these sort of opportunities to work with charities through University of North Carolina?
Yes, of course. So I can start with the organizations first. I'm personally interested in pursuing a career in the industry. So there's an industry pharmacist organization that I'm part of. And then, of course, part of Pharmalliance. And there's other organizations for people more focused on going to clinical pharmacy. So they end up choosing those organizations where they get more exposure to that. As per the substance use, there's another organization on campus that actually specializes in that as well. And I know they get speakers and they're constantly doing learning seminars to raise awareness of like on what we can do as pharmacists to essentially step up and prevent that from happening. A major thing is like educating patients on naloxone. And that's something I've noticed, like professors, just like in our normal lecture class, they've started talking about that as well on since initially or before I started pharmacy school, pharmacists in US did not have prescribing power to prescribe naloxone. However, in recent years, it has changed and we're able to prescribe that. So that's something we learn a lot in our classes. As for the rotation structure, I know I briefly went over it. I can kind of go in more in depth, especially in regards to industry as well. So the first rotation is after a first year, and it could be either clinical, like hospital pharmacy, or community pharmacy. And for me, my first one was community pharmacy and a little bit of ambulatory care, so taking care of patients with those chronic diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and following them throughout their life essentially, and seeing what we can do to manage their medications or change up their diet, things like that. And my upcoming rotation, it's in hospital administration, which is extremely interesting. I don't know much about it. However, I'll let y'all know how it goes. And then, of course, we have direct patient care, where, again, you're just working with the patients. It could be inpatient or outpatient. And then, again, our fourth year is when I think there is 9 rotations. So each month is one rotation, and you can choose and rank which specialty you want, like ranging from oncology, cardiology, ID, and more. And then, again, you can also work in the community pharmacy. Plus, you can also apply for some rotations, for example, the industry rotations in your fourth year. So you apply for those in your third year if you're interested, and then you hear back and see if you got those. And I know some people are also interested in the exchange program that we have. I know we have one in London and Australia. So that's where we go for our rotations as well in our fourth year. However, if we do want early exposure to industry, you can put in more time outside of like your classes and apply for internships over the summer. And that's kind of what I've been doing right now. So just applying for internships and hoping to get some for this summer upcoming, like after my second year. So a lot of students tend to do that and get internships after the second or third year to get that industry exposure. But that's kind of like roughly how it goes here. I hope I wasn't able to confuse y'all.
No, thanks, Rubani. That was really well spoken. And I think I remember a lot of people talking about their summer internships and preparing to apply for them. And I wish you luck for them. I know the
Thank you.
students that I spent time with at the Kappa Psi House all largely enjoy their internships. I'm sure you will. But yeah, moving on from that, I think we all go on placements and we all see some hairy stuff sometimes. So maybe Talia, we can kind of explore across our free institutions what kind of support services we all get.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jack. So I guess a bit of a brief question. As Jack said, placements and I guess all the exposures and the stress that people are under can be a hectic time. So I essentially want you guys to run us through any kind of support services, whether it be like student organizations or on-campus support that you have that you can rely on when times get a bit tough and you need that additional support. So we'll start off with Rivani, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. So over at UNC, we have an OSA office. I cannot think about the full name or on the top of my head right now, but it's called OSA. And for example, if you're on your rotation, and I know some of my friends, this happened to them actually, and their preceptor switched pharmacies, and you can't really go with them to the different pharmacy because your contract is with that preceptor at that specific pharmacy. So you are able to contact the OSA office, and they work with you to get you like a different rotation or a different preceptor. They're a big support, as well as when you're going on any rotation in any region of North Carolina, you kind of know what people are going there. So again, you have those students there to support you.
Amazing. Thank you. And it's really good to hear that you can rely on, I guess, like the senior students for that guidance and support. I think that's, yeah, one of the best things about having these collaborative classroom environments and all these student organizations is that you get to meet senior students that can essentially advise you and give you guidance because they've been through the same experience you have. So that's amazing to hear. Well, now move on to Serena. What kind of support organizations are available at Monash?
So there's quite a lot, although we have a small campus. So um, in terms of counseling services and academic support, so we get reminded very often that they're very much available. So there's an online platform through the Monash website that you can get contact into for counseling or like mental health support. And then in terms of academic support, there's quite a lot of there's a variety of opportunities you can get involved in. So, for first year, I remember there are some student-led academic support. They're called PASS. So I was a part of it when I was in first year, and I found it very helpful in terms of just help me revise my content. And since it was also ran by a senior student, I was able to get make friends and have connections with them as well. So it was really valuable for me. And then I was lucky enough to be a peer mentor for first years when I was in second year. So that is also a program where senior students are able to help first years settle in for pharmacy and pharmaceutical science students. So I was involved in that and I had a lot of fun. And I also got to know a lot more senior students as well. So I feel like all these student-led programs where students are involved in, not only you can help I'd say the lower years, like first years or like new students, you can also make really valuable connections with students your year or even students that's more senior than you. And in terms of student-led initiatives and clubs, so we have on the Parkville campus for Monash, we have I'll say the biggest one we have is the MPSU. So it's the Pharmacy Student Union. I can't remember the exact name. And they plan many events throughout the year. So I had a lot of friends who was a part of it, and it is a very you'll see them everywhere around campus, basically. And then they've definitely been very involved for my campus, my time on campus. And then I'm also a part of the student domain of Pharmalliance for Monash. So that is one of the first, I would say, student-led society club that I'm a part of, and I'm in there with my friends. I'm having a great time, and I got to know many smart and great students like Ravani. So I think it's although Parkville might seem like a small campus and there's not much variety of student-led because we have a main campus on Clayton, I must explain. So you'll probably find more diverse clubs and student-led initiatives on Clayton. So, but Parkville is very much focused on pharmacy. But we do have a lot of things you can be a part of, and also many support services that are available on Parkville as well.
Amazing. Thanks, Serena. And yeah, just to plug for like what you're talking about, peer mentoring and past, definitely some incredible programs that I made the most of during my time. And I'm sure Jack, you would agree as well. I'm pretty sure I might have been Jack's peer mentor one of the years. I can't remember.
I think you were my peer mentor when I first started
Oh,
pharmacy. Yeah,
great.
and then the next year I did the exact same thing for another group of students. So it's a big cycle.
It really is. And yeah, peer mentoring, past programs, any programs at all that the uni offers at Monash is super great for really just helping to support their students. So very grateful for that. And lastly, Nicole, can you chat to us about some student services and support networks available at UCL?
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, very similar to what Serena was talking about. When we start our pharmacy journey at UCL, we're given and assigned a transition mentor, and that's an older year who usually is year 2 and 3 because that's the time we have a bit more free time and looking to help younger years out, supporting them not just in pharmacy but helping them to settle into the new uni life, giving advice, that kind of thing. And then we are also assigned a academic member of staff to be our academic tutor. So they would help with things like applying for internships, giving us advice on how to study for exams. And they're also there to support in all aspects of life as well. I think that our pharmacy school is quite disconnected from UCL's main campus. So we're quite a close and tight-knit community. So a lot of us do have good relationships with our professors and lecturers. So I think it's very easy to find yourself a support network within the School of Pharmacy, whether that be with older years or academic members of staff. Similar to Serena as well, we have a kind of a mentoring program within the student domain. So we have what we call pharmacy families. So that's a group of students with three or four children. So the first years we call them the children, and then we have two parents, and it's just a more comfortable and informal environment for the parents of the older years to help the students, first year students, to settle in and really get used to what it's like to study at the School of Pharmacy, because we do appreciate I think we can all agree it's a big jump from high school, and especially for international students living out, they can feel a lot of pressure and a big change. So I think that having the family system there is really helpful.
Thanks so much, Nicole. And that pharmacy family sounds so nice. I really love the idea of that. That's great. And it's so nice to hear that you also have not only like senior like students to mentor you, but also like some academic support staff as well. So that's really great to hear. For our last question regarding your academic experience, we're then going to move on to some exciting career questions. I just wanted to know a bit about your teaching structure at your institution. So do you guys have electives, research opportunities? What kind of like unique learning methods does your institution provide? And Nicole, we might start with you for this one, if that's okay.
Yeah, so the structure of the course is quite similar across all UK unis, just because it's very tightly regulated by the GPHC, which is the regulatory body in the UK. So through years 1 to 3, we don't have any electives at all. And I think basically the whole of the UK, we study the same kind of content throughout years 1 to 3. It only kind of diverges when we get to year 4, where we have our research project, and that happens in the first term. And we have to produce a dissertation based on research that we have to conduct under the supervision of an academic member of staff. And that's kind of, the timeline is kind of defined by what aspect of pharmacy you choose, and what you decide to research. Not too sure on the specifics yet because I haven't gotten to that stage. But I think it's in the research project, you have a lot more freedom to choose anything that interests you. And that's when you also get the opportunity to go on exchange. So I think we get to go to countries like South Korea, Canada, I think it's Monash and UNC as well. And we get to study abroad for a couple of months. And I've heard from students that it is really a rewarding and a really fun experience to study abroad. And so not too many electives in years 1 to 3. We do have kind of smaller research projects. For example, in year 3, we get to research areas of pharmacy practice and patient education. But those projects are kind of smaller ones where we produce infographics and write like smaller essay-based answers to be assessed on.
Amazing. Thanks, Nicole. Those global exchange opportunities sound amazing. I love the countries that are on offer as well. They're very unique opportunities for sure. And I guess we kind of maybe already said this before, but Jack and I did do the exchange program to UNC and could not talk more highly of it. It was just such an incredible partnership and experience for us. Thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing that. We'll now move on to Serena. Does Monash have electives, research opportunities? What's it kind of like over there?
In terms of electives, I think what I've heard is very similar to what Nicole has been saying. So we don't have much electives really. I think an example I could think of was so in third year and most of fourth year, we have research opportunities. So in those, there is an opportunity to choose what topic you're interested in for your research. So I think, yeah, in terms of the other parts, I know most other university degrees would have like spare time for electives as like you can do like an extra unit on your choice, but in terms of pharmacy, we don't really have that option. But there are plenty of research opportunities that we get exposed to quite early on. So um, in third year, I just did a little group research project, I would say. And then in fourth year, you do get to go on to do a bigger one. So I'm lucky enough to be a part of the exchange to UNC next year, where I'll do um, plenty of research. I hope, yeah. So I'm very excited for that. And then in terms of the teaching structure for Monash, we're very much focused on conditions and the treatment and also the medication, patient management involved in certain medical conditions. So, as I've mentioned previously, it's almost like per week we'll focus on a condition, and it's pretty. I'll say it's pretty clinical, but there's also other units where you get to do some work around conditions that you more commonly see in the community as well. Um, and there's also plenty of exchange opportunities for a pharmacy student at Monash, which is very exciting because this year, so I think this is pretty new. So going into third year, we had the opportunity to go to an exchange to Italy on our Prado campus. And then I knew I had some friends who was a part of that exchange and have seen their like stories on Instagram. It looks very beautiful. And I'm sure they had a really good time. And then upcoming in this November, I think it's right now. I can't quite remember. We also had an opportunity to go to Japan. There was a collaboration with the University of Chiba, I think. But yeah, I think that was also like a brand new opportunity for pharmacy students, and that as well as the exchange to UNC that's been happening for quite a while now. So yeah, there's actually quite a lot of opportunities. I'm sure there'll be new opportunities as well for in the future. And also we have a campus on Malaysia as well, so I'm pretty sure there's opportunities where you can go there and study there as well. So yeah, plenty of opportunities to do research and then as well as studying abroad as well.
Thank you so much, Serena. And that is so cool that I feel like since I've like finished pharmacy last year, like there's so many awesome new opportunities like Japan. That is so, so, so cool. And I'm very excited to hear that you're also going to UNC. So congratulations on that. I think you saw Jack and I clapping. We're very excited for you. It'll be a great opportunity. And lastly, Rubani, could you shed some light on a bit of your course structure? I think you already did a little bit already, but maybe just expanding on if there are any like electives or research opportunities that happen at UNC.
Yes, of course. Firstly, I'm super excited for Serena to be coming over here. I would love to show them around. I already talked to them. As for our structure, again, like each year kind of looks different. Essentially for the first a year and a half when we're in classes, it's all just like your core classes like pharmacotherapy, pharmacokinetics, pharmacology, and you're not able to choose your electives per se. However, starting from your second semester in your second year, your second semester in your second year, you're able to choose electives. They could range anywhere from toxicology or making medications, which is like a little crash course like into like industry pharmacy, extremely exciting and pretty cool. And then UNC also offers like different certificate programs for free. So there's like a rural certificate program. I know there's an ambulatory care one, and then there's also a business certificate program as well. And so starting your spring and second semester, you're able to enroll in classes related to those certificate programs. Additionally, some people end up doing dual degrees after their second year. So they have the opportunities of either pursuing an MBA or an MPH if they're interested in. And again, like as per research, there's opportunities. You can, in your own time, you can reach out to professors if you're interested in being part of their team, or there's also a program called RASP, and it basically works like you choose which professors you want to work with, and the professors choose which students they want to work with. And if there's a match, then you end up collaborating with them on the project. And it's like a longitudinal project from, I think, your spring second year to, I think, your spring third year. So like almost like a year long or 2 year long project, which is super exciting because, again, they offer a variety of research projects, and I have a lot of friends who are doing it. And again, for electives, there's more flexibility as we get into our third year. You get to choose like other electives like oncology or cardiology or ID. So again, like as we move on to like different semesters and we kind of like graduating a year, you just you're able to like have more options. And again, our fourth year, it's mainly all rotations, and you can rank which rotations you want. And you have the option of choosing like and applying for interesting rotations like the industry ones, or you can also like work with the FDA and stuff. So there's definitely opportunities in that aspect. And again, like going back to the exchange program, that's also another like a fourth year thing. So you apply in your third year, and again, they match you with different countries. I think currently UNC has program in, of course, like Australia, London, Japan, Malawi. I'm probably forgetting like a bunch of them, but they have like a bunch of programs. Oh, and one more thing, it's kind of exciting. So this year they introduced these global electives, so people are actually able to go overseas for a week. And I think next semester they're doing it to Switzerland and London. So that's really exciting. And they only had 10 spots available for each, and they were gone in like a minute. But yeah, people definitely wanted those global actions. But yeah, it's really exciting and a lot of opportunities to collaborate with other people as well.
Wow, that is amazing. That is so exciting to hear about like that 1 week program that you talked about. Obviously, all the exchange opportunities. I also think have heard of a couple of students at UNC doing like the MPH and the MBA alongside the Doctor of Pharmacy, which I think is also some incredible exposure. So it's really good to hear that you have those opportunities as well as like electives in your third year as well. So thank you so much, Rubani. So for our next section, we're actually going to move on to discussing some career outcomes and opportunities. So I'm going to handball back to Jack.
Thanks, Talia. And I want to reiterate, it is really exciting to hear all about these exchanges we're all going, because I remember spending time at UNC and in the Kappa Psi house, whilst, there was 5 of us Australian students there. We had about 6 students from Finland, 2 pharmacists I think they were from Malawi. And at the same time, there was another 6 Japanese students floating around somewhere. So we had our own little international conference in the kitchen. But yeah, as Talia mentioned, bit of a switch of pace. I really want to hear about career opportunities that come out of our respective pharmacy cohorts. So perhaps, Serena, you can start us off and talk a little bit about what you're seeing or what you know about our pharmacy graduates in Australia, particularly at Monash. Where are they going? What are they doing now? Do they go into community, hospital, industry? Do they change tact and go into a completely different career? Maybe you can tell us a bit about that, Serena.
Yeah, sure. So, as we were pretty much saying, we have 2 main streams. So there's hospital and there's community. So in hospital pharmacists, they do a lot of clinical work. So it's actually quite, what they do is quite different. So, from my experience, hospitals, they are very much more on the, I would say, speaking with doctors about patient medication. So basically, they ensure that all the patients that come in, their medications are well managed. And then in the community, which is a more common one. So in community, we would do basically the main one is obviously dispensing medications, but then also you're speaking a lot to customers and patients, but you're also getting contact into the doctor. So we Community, they do a lot more diverse. There's a very diverse range of things you can do in the community. And then in terms of other career paths, for pharmacy graduates, so I would say there is opportunities for research. So I think for internship, there are opportunities, not a lot, for you to go into research or work with like institutions for pharmacists, like the two main ones we have here. So the one for community pharmacists is called the PSA, and then the one for hospitals, which has been mentioned before, is called ADFA. So I'm pretty sure there's opportunities to work with them as well. And then another option is I would say is you'll get, after the 4 years, you'll get the Bachelor's of Pharmacy. And if you do the 5th year, which is more so just like an intern year, you'll get the Master's. And then I'm pretty sure after that you can apply to pursue a PhD, which is what I'm looking into at the moment as well. So that is another alternative career paths after you graduate. You can pursue further study. And then I've also seen students who do a PhD and work part-time as a hospital pharmacist or community pharmacist as well. So it's I would say that's the main career paths for a pharmacy graduate in Australia.
Thanks, Serena. Yeah, you've definitely banged the nail on the head there, where I think most of our graduates do go into the community, and then some go into the hospitals, because those are the two mainstreams. And obviously, there's far more community internships available, particularly in Victoria, as opposed to our hospital ones. And having just gone through myself the final year and the whole internship applications and such, I know a few people that have gone interstate to get a job in a hospital. It's getting tight. But like you said, regardless of where you go, you still have opportunities even to do things like PhDs afterwards, which is really exciting. And another exciting thing I think I wanted to follow up with, because we mentioned it at the very start of our conversation today, but kind of the expanding scope of practice in Australia. Maybe you can give us a little bit of a rundown of what kind of things you're seeing in community pharmacies and maybe even in hospital pharmacies in Australia regarding to kind of the new exciting pilot programs that have been happening.
Yeah, of course. So I think it's definitely like rapidly changing. So I work at a private community pharmacy, so I don't get exposed to a lot, but when I go on placements, when I go on placements in community and hospital, I see like a very, very diverse range of services that we can provide. So I'll just list a few. So in communities, pharmacists can give vaccinations. So that's already been there when I started pharmacy. And I've also heard of like new pilot programs. So there's one where you could prescribe antibiotics for urinary tract infections, and then pharmacists can give out medications for a variety of conditions. So for us, it's called like the Schedule 3 medications. So we are authorized to I think diagnose some conditions, but also give out a variety of medications. And there's been a lot more medications being added into our scope of practice that we can basically give out without a prescription or a doctor's advice as well. So I would only expect our scope to further expand really in the future. I'm really excited to see what pharmacists would be authorized to do, because I know that pharmacists could be we're trained, with training we can be capable of doing a lot more than now, but I can't really comment on the hospital side because I haven't had too much exposure in that, unfortunately.
That's fair enough. Thank you, Serena. I think you gave it a good rundown because, like you mentioned, we can prescribe the antibiotics for uncomplicated cystitis, to use the proper pilot terminology. But then, yeah, otherwise we've got continued supply of the combined oral contraceptive pill, the travel vaccines on top of the vaccines, which you mentioned. That's a relic from COVID. Um, and of course, we have some psoriasis treatments we can help with now. And I think there's one more which escapes me because I never see it happen. Um, but on top of those four pilot programs that are already running, I think there was an announcement recently that they're going to try and have pharmacists being able to prescribe for 22 different conditions across Australia, which I know from my friends working in very remote areas of Australia is going to be an absolute lifesaver, considering they might have a GP for half a day once a week. Um, but yeah, it's really exciting to see this expanding scope of practice in Australia. But I'm interested to hear from Nicole next because it's to my understanding that I think from any pharmacy student that graduates from next year onwards, I believe, essentially graduates as a prescriber. Maybe Nicole, you can tell us a bit about where your pharmacists are going in the UK and maybe a little bit more about this expanded scope of practice that's happening quite rapidly in the UK.
Yeah, Jack, you're absolutely right. So from 2026, all of our master pharmacy students will be independent prescribers. So that means that we can prescribe any medication within like our competency, and that would mean just completing a training course that is accredited by the regulatory body, just to prove that and show that you have competence in that specialty or that area. I think the main change is in community pharmacy is the implementation of the Pharmacy First scheme, and that's a scheme that was implemented around, I think it's the 31st of January 2024. I think it's on the day of my pharmacy interview, so it was quite memorable. On that day, they implemented the Pharmacy First scheme, which allows pharmacists to provide kind of medications for the seven most common minor conditions that we see people come into in the pharmacy. And it just really aims to reduce waiting times and the workload pressure of GPs, just because, similarly to what Serena and Rabani were saying, our role is expanding quite a lot. And we have, with the right training and the right education, we can help our other healthcare professionals manage some of that workload and really optimize patient care and provide patients with the service that they really deserve. I think so. That's one of the biggest changes, and that kind of aligns with NHS's long-term plan. So it's like a 10-year long plan to implement reform and improve healthcare in general. So in terms of where the graduates are going, we have a pre-registration year after graduation. So that's 1 year of kind of supervised practice under the supervision of a trained pharmacist. And it's quite popular still, quite common for graduates to go into community and hospital. And as you said, Jack, that is still mainstream. But I am noticing a lot of my course mates and the older years are showing a lot of interest in industry pharmacy as well. So again, yeah, with the internship applications going on now, people are looking to get some industry exposure. And I think following from the internship, they might begin to apply for a job with the same company, or the company might offer to take them on after. But yeah, so the main career paths are still into hospital and community. And there's, even with those two environments, there's a lot to do there now with the independent prescribing rights. And yeah, it's just a really exciting time to be graduating, and this kind of these few years with all this change.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a sentiment felt very strongly here in Australia at the moment. It's a really exciting time to be a pharmacy student, even more exciting time to be becoming a pharmacist in the next couple of years with all this new prescribing practices coming in, because I think the communities and the government bodies are definitely starting to recognize that pharmacists do have the training and the capabilities to kind of step up as primary care providers, especially post-COVID. I think we really showed our abilities, or at least our profession showed how well we can step up to kind of fill the gaps and help the other health professionals that we work so closely with now and we learn closely with, regardless of whether you're in Australia, the UK, or the US. And I think that brings me next to you, lastly, Rubani. I feel like from my time in the US, pharmacy prescribing has definitely been something that's been around for a hot minute now. Um, and this kind of shift of pharmacy students going into industry that's starting to pick up in the UK, I feel like that's definitely something that's, it's not unfamiliar to you guys in the US. Dare I say, I feel like a lot of the people I spoke to in the US when I was there were more interested in going into industry pharmacy than going into the hospitals or communities. So maybe you can talk a bit about where are the UNC graduates going, and do you guys have pharmacy prescribing?
Yes, of course. I can start with the career first. I would say for my class at least, it's like a 50% split between people who want to do more clinical pharmacy and hospital, and then people who are interested in industry. And I've noticed like with each like class, it's kind of different. I noticed like the class below me, some of them are interested in community pharmacy and clinical pharmacy as well. And then I think there's like a little less people who are interested in industry, but I think it's probably just because of lack of exposure. And I know like with the organizations on campus, they really push for exposure, getting exposed to industry pharmacy, especially because the program at UNC is extremely like clinical based. So everything we're learning in class is very clinical. Of course, like in the recent years, they've started to like include classes like the making medications class, where they're introducing us to like drug development process, what that looks like, and how pharmacists can play a role in that. So definitely, I see a shift that's changing from like, oh, pharmacy industry, well, they're the bad guys, like that's like fear mongering, and I think it's definitely shifting into like, oh yes, like here's where we can expand our role and essentially like have a bigger part and not just helping one patient, but helping like a whole population of patients essentially. So how it looks like for us is, so after you graduate, either you can do direct to hire. That could be either going into community pharmacy or consulting. So consulting is extremely competitive because again, there's not a lot of spots, and it's kind of like MBA students competing against like pharmacy students because pharma consulting is again like a new rising thing. So that's something I've been exposed to recently. And then you have two other major pathways. One is residency. So to become a hospital clinical pharmacist, you do have to go through like 1 year of residency. However, if you want to become a specialized pharmacist, for example, an oncology pharmacist or cardiology pharmacist, you have to go through 2 years of residency. So the first year is like a more general exposure to hospital, and second year is very specialized into what you want to do. The other path was fellowship. So depending on where you want to go in the industry pharmacy. So I want to do medical affairs, which is essentially like a bridge between the clinical knowledge and how I can use my clinical knowledge and communicate that to a population of like providers, and explaining like, oh, like this is the medication this industry is making, and like just like being able to talk to other providers about it. So that's like kind of medical affairs. And then you have like different parts like regulatory affairs, which is like working with the governments. You also have, I think, marketing now that's been rising. So you have all these different fields in industry where you can get fellowships in. And again, that's also 2 years depending on what you want to do. And from what I've been hearing, sometimes in just a year, if you're really good at what you're doing and you're really putting in the effort, sometimes you hear back from the company you're working with and they give you a full-time offer. However, like if after you finish your 2 years, you again apply for jobs at different industry pharmacies. So those are the kind of different routes people can go to. And again, they kind of overlap. There's a lot of flexibility if you want to change what you're doing. I've heard from a lot of people, they were hospital clinical pharmacists at first. However, they transitioned into industry, or they were community pharmacists, or they transitioned to industry. So there's a lot of overlap going on if you are interested in going to a different field. And even in just industry, you're able to like hop around to different specialties like medical affairs, regulatory affairs. So actually really exciting. And again, I feel like even in the US, like it's definitely starting to become more normalized of like working in the industry, being part of like the big pharma and not like villainizing them. So, yeah.
Thanks, Rubani. Yeah, I think even just from what you've spoken now, and you mentioned before, you've got a keen interest in pharmacy industry, and yeah, it really is something special to almost see this progression of, okay, I don't just have to work in a CVS or a Walgreens or a hospital. I can go into work with other providers now. And so I think thank you all so much for talking about what kind of career aspects are coming out of your respective continents. So I think to wrap it up, Talia, what's next, kind of challenges, and maybe everyone can give a little piece of advice.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Can I just say before we move on to that, hearing you guys speak about all these opportunities has just got me so excited. Like, I'm just so keen to hear that there are just so many incredible opportunities all over the world for pharmacists to make such an incredible impact. So, on that note, here's our final question, and it's really about just giving advice to a current or prospective pharmacy student. I know you guys are early in your journeys, but if you could give one sentence or one word of advice to someone who is just starting out their pharmacy journey, what would you say? And we're going to start with Nicole for this one.
Yeah, so I think for such a difficult degree like pharmacy, it's really important to have the right mindset and to surround yourself with people who have that same mindset as you, surrounding yourself with people who have goals that align with yours as well and values. I think it's really important. Developing that support network in the early stages will really help you to like grow as a future healthcare professional, just because you develop those collaboration skills. I think for me, especially doing group study sessions has always been so helpful. Just like bouncing ideas across from each other and being able to learn from your peers, because like they have so many great ideas and you never know until you start that conversation. And I think we're also as equally as motivated as each other, and there's a lot to learn from each other. So I think it makes pharmacy a lot easier when you have friends and the support network that really are able to support you in the ways that you need. And yeah, I think especially with OSCEs as well, it's studying pharmacy is quite a teamwork heavy degree. And if you have that support early on, you can be really honest with your friends, ask for feedback, and they can really help you to grow as a person. So I think finding the right people to help you to grow is really important.
Amazing advice. Thank you, Nicole. And I really love that you highlighted the importance of collaboration. I think even building those skills of being able to learn and collaborate with pharmacy students is amazing, because when you head out into the workplace, it's not like you're working by yourself. You're working with the patients, you're working with your colleagues, you're working with other healthcare practitioners. So it's very important to set the foundation now whilst you're at pharmacy school. And also it is really fun studying with friends and making up OSCE cases. I know that was definitely one of my highlights. So thank you so much, Nicole. And let's go to Serena. What word of advice do you have for prospective students?
I would say to really just put yourself out there, and then if you want to have a go at something, have a go at it. I always say this a lot. So if you don't apply for something, your chance of getting it is zero, but if you do, it's not. So I feel like as long as you fit the criteria, don't really doubt yourself, and then just not not go for it in the first place, because you don't know, you might just get this opportunity if you really just try for it. And even if you don't, it's a good learning opportunity as well. So I was able to be a part of many exciting opportunities, and that wouldn't have happened if I didn't apply for them or if I didn't reach out and ask for them. And then that has really made my journey as a pharm student so more fun, and more I'm getting exposure to many things. And then and I think yeah, you just gotta put yourself out there, give it a go.
Amazing. Thank you, Serena. And I also love that word of advice, something as well I really resonate with, as with Nicole discussing the importance of teamwork and collaboration as well. I think putting yourself out there is one of the best things you can ever do. You never know until you try, essentially. And the amount of opportunities that are available at Monash, UCL, UNC, like we've heard it here today, there are so many amazing opportunities. You just got to try your best, put your hand up, and I'm sure something amazing will come along the way. So thank you so much, Serena. And lastly, Rubani, what advice do you have for us?
I would say being open-minded, because pharmacy is an ever-changing field. And I know a lot of times when we're starting pharmacy school, we're pigeonholing ourselves into like one specific thing we want to do. So I think just being open-minded, being open to trying opportunities that might look a little different than what you're interested in, but just getting that experience, because again, all experience is good experience and something you can talk about, grow from, and even learn if that's something, oh, like I know for sure I do not want to do this. So again, like having the open mindset of like, let me give this a go, even though it's like, yes, maybe I'm interested in it. I'm not too sure, but I think just giving it a try, and just again, like being accepting of the changes that are going to happen, as I think we've seen in all different like countries, we're growing. And again, I think that's what I would say.
Thank you so much. Once again, I love the quotes that everyone's been using today. Absolutely amazing and so inspiring. Really is important to be open-minded. Pharmacy is is a career that involves lifelong learning. So being open-minded to opportunities, to guideline changes, to workplace changes is just so essential. And I'm so glad to hear that advice coming from you, Ravani. So yeah, overall, it's been really great to hear about the importance of collaboration, opportunities, and open-mindedness. So thank you so much for that. So to finish off our episode, I'm going to hand back to Jack for our conclusion.
Thanks, Talia. So I think, yeah, it's really important to reiterate that, yeah, I really love all the pieces of advice all three of you have given. Really surround yourself with the people with mindset that you want. Make sure you give anything a crack. If you fit the criteria, you have a chance. But yeah, I think most importantly, I think just being able to be open, be flexible. Because, like you said, Rubani, pharmacy is an ever-changing career. We've already talked about it today. So many changes going on across all three different continents, and that's life. Life changes all the time too. So if you can be flexible in your career, hopefully you can be flexible in everything else. But I think I really want to thank all three of you so much. So thank you, Serena, Rubani, and Nicole. And importantly, thank you to our colleagues at Pharmalliance, first of all, for creating Pharmalliance, and then also organising this collaboration with ourselves at Dose of Pharma. It has been incredibly enjoyable and a pleasure to have a sit down and chat with all three of you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack and Talia, for hosting this. It was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really great to speak about my advice. I love to like keep talking about, give advice to hopefully help the younger years of those who are interested in pharmacy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for this experience. It's been really lovely to hear about the similarities and differences. I know we're all working towards the same goals, but we're all on different journeys, and it's really lovely to hear about them.
Dose of Pharma acknowledges the traditional custodians of the various lands throughout Australia on which we connect today, and pays respect to elders past, present, and future.